us know how stop signs work.
With 3.9% financing or lease for just $345 per month for 36 months. With your lease or purchase during.
Hello, this is George F551, and this is the Christmas Eve walkthrough for 2022 at the Mall of Whitney Field, Leominster, Mass., or as we older people still sometimes refer to it as Searstown Mall, which was named after the former Sears that used to be on the left where that little mural is. So, as we turn, there's some changes. Not very recognizable, but an important thing is one new storefront opened, but it's not a new store. Store was a kiosk, then graduated to an actual tenant. So here we're on the former Sears side of things, and as usual, this side of the mall is relatively dead. I want to point out that I screwed up entering the date to the hidden camera, which, by the way, I set it and forget it, so if it flops, tilts, bobbles, it is what it is. So, yeah, it's supposed to read 12:24 and reads 11:25 instead. So, I need to bring up something somebody brought up in a previous video, and has happened with similar hidden cameras. Is someone who's very low on the human scale, who can't put a negative comment in without insulting, says that I shouldn't be literally walking into people. Anyway, we start off walking through the anchors, which is something that we do. Although this Old Navy is now a junior anchor, it was a major anchor at one point, so still give it the major anchor treatment of a walkthrough. So anyway, as you will see, and I think it does happen here, it's been a while since I recorded it, I purposely leave a gap so no one can tell exactly when this happened, because the time showing is obviously set to 0, and that's how long the camera's been running. But anyway, rest assured to you, I am not running into people or walking into their faces. This is a side effect of cameras that have a very low angle. In other words, it's got a narrow field of view. It's not wide angle, so it gives the perception that I'm closer to people and other objects than I really am. So some people have mentioned, should be more careful or not get in people's faces. Rest assured you, I don't do that. It just, the very tight reference frame the camera has just makes it look like that, for instance. Looked like I was in that woman's face, but I was literally about 6 feet away. Anyway, we let these kids go through, because hey, they're busy and I'm just doing a video. So, walking through the mall, and this time, the old Macy's wing, which I thought I got a good shot of, but didn't. We do have something to show you down there. And there's the Claire's, Bath & Body Works, and here's the, if you want to call it a new tenant, here it is. It's a mobile phone repair shop. This used to be a kiosk in the busier part of the mall, but now it's its own store. It's also very hard to stand and try to get these with people around. Entering what used to be R.H. White's back in the original Searstown Mall days, which became more inline tenants when they couldn't fill it. So we go down the next down the next corridor. And like I say, if this voiceover isn't perfect, no big deal, but if it's major, then I do it over. I don't use cue cards, I don't have anything pre-written. It's all off the cuff, hence the stutter there and a few others. It's organic. So, walking down this empty hall, which used to have a Chuck E. Cheese on the right, not quite far right, but however, it was a detached tenant, as they would say. There used to be windows you could look in. So we're gonna just do roughly a lap around the Burlington. I'm getting ahead of myself way too often. Perhaps I'm trying to rush this, I don't know. So, here we go, lap around. So this is a fairly busy store. And they have the big lines behind that giant wall of shelving. I think that kind of limits your ability to get customers funneled into at least a couple of lines. And that side was actually crowded, so cut through the aisle in order to make our way around. I mean, these aisles are tall enough that it actually hides quite a few people that are in here. It's not as empty as it looks. It's fairly busy. Every now and then I try to get a view all the way down the store, and that's also at other shops as well. And again, try to keep out of people's way. And here's that reduced footprint concept that the bigger stores are suffering from. They're trying to mirror their newer locations with a smaller footprint, and why they just wall off the rest of it instead of just using it for anything, or even surrendering the space so the mall can rent it out to other tenants, I don't know. The important thing is the landlord's getting their money, so if it's dead space and it's being paid for, Hull Properties don't care too much. And frankly, who would care? So, very busy in this aisle, and gets a little busy over here as well. Again, like I said, the camera has a very narrow field of view, so everything's zoomed in, and sometimes it will look like I'm getting really close to people, and I'm not. I know I'm repeating myself, but it seems people are not very bright sometimes on the internet. And I'm sure, see, like there, it looked like I almost slammed into that guy that was on the right. But I was about 4 feet away from him. Or for you metric buffs, about 1.4 meters. That should be like 1.25, somewhere in there. So we're pretty much done a lap around Burlington Coat Factory. Next anchor that we will be going to is a ways up the mall, and that will be the JCPenney. And here's a guy that didn't quite grasp the concept of somebody is walking towards you, please move over. So this was what we're walking out of right now and back into the original space. This was the quote-unquote first edition of the mall, which was taking a department store and turning it into inline tenants. The part that the Burlington was in was the first physical edition, which used to be quite a bit longer. Used to be other stores as well. Even if there was a 100% occupancy rate, there were like a half dozen, if I remember. It's been a while, because a lot of anchor store changes also changed the length of that new edition to the current point where it's barely any addition at all, except for the main store being the Burlington. As we go on our journeys, quite a few people there. As we get closer to the JCPenney side of the mall, you notice how the crowds are getting bigger as we approach the Hot Topic. And we are now leaving what used to be the original part of the mall, which was the back door to the former R.H. White's. And now in the second edition of the mall, I think it was late 80s and it was built. So, yeah, this side, it's not doing as well because the Far East that's on the far right, you'll see it on the way back. That's gone now. And there's nothing on the left side at our reference point besides the Hot Topic that we passed and this T-Mobile. As you can see, there's definitely more people. I was trying to get that sign, but the sun washed it out, so it was kind of an ironic statement. Like, shop, dine, do everything here in Leominster. Well, Leominster as a whole, that's possible. This mall, no. And speaking of no, the thing that's never been successful, even in the mall's heyday, the food court. We've got only 3 restaurants, and the Dunkin' Donuts has been completely removed. Got a Chinese, Japanese, I think, and Italian. None of the places are exactly franchises that I know of. And one giant shoe department. The first tenant that was in the first 2/3 from the food court towards JCPenney's was a mom and pop Hallmark card shop. It was very popular. The only reason it closed is the parents of the children that could have continued the business decided not to. So parents retired, store was gone. Then a store closed next to it. Shoe department took them all over. And here we are in front of JCPenney, and there's Santa Claus. There's JCPenney. This time all the lights working on the sign. So we take another lap around another department store, the JCPenney. This, I was kind of surprised with all the cars that were there. There weren't as many people as I thought there would be. Perhaps many of the people that were parked there are actually in the mall and started in this position. Now the high contrast of the store kind of makes the image washed out, and so apologies for the washouts. Nothing I can do about that. It's automatically, automatically adjusted, automatically set. So I do these across the store pans like I did in Burlington. It just see nothing but white. Although that came out okay over there. Yeah, I was surprised with all the cars that were in the parking lot here that there weren't more people. Although it's a bit crowded with the random showpieces in the middle of these aisles that are already somewhat narrow, but standard size. Now, even though the aisles aren't as tall as they were in Burlington, you just don't see the people. So now we're in the back of the JCPenney, and kind of walked fast there because the woman that was looking there didn't quite grasp the concept of somebody's walking in the aisle where you are. You might want to watch out. Yeah, so I just decided to go faster, get out of her way. After all, it's Christmas Eve. And what I tried to do here, and it was kind of hard to show, although it does seem to look okay, is pointing out that there is a somewhat decent sized line at that register. And then we go to the far end of the JCPenney, and one of the things I don't understand about their stores, because I've seen it in their other locations as well, is why they rip the floors out and just polish the exposed concrete. I don't quite get it. Doesn't really look all that good. Kind of makes it look more like a dump than it does a nice department store. Surprisingly, there's almost nobody in this section. And then we look down the service department, there's absolutely nothing there. Or at least that we could see. Then when we get back to the clothes, it starts to get busy again. And down the aisle we go. And they got a rope set up for lines, and we cut this lap a little short like we've been doing because it's women's fashion and the lines and people are roughly the same there. And if we can, we just walk by but peek into the Sephora that's in there. And it looks like, which was pretty surprising, that no one was in there except for the employee at the register. That was kind of amazing because the store is somewhat busy, but surprisingly, Sephora, not a soul to be found. That is weird. Absolutely no one in there. And lots of empty shelves, which I don't know if Sephora is doing all that well, at least at this location. So back out into the mall and finishing up the lap. So we get another look inside the shoe store, which this time it starts to look like there's people there. And we get another look at Santa before any kids are put in his lap, because, yeah, that I won't show. So back down we go, and another look into the shoe store. Much closer, you can see there's definitely people in there now. And yeah, fantastic styles in the pizza place. And sometimes I come to a near stop or slow down a lot so people can get by, because I intentionally do these slowly because the camera is not, it doesn't have the best frame rate, because if I walk fast it might wobble around and of course everything will smear. So if I'm going too slow, I just slow down more, pull way off to the side and let people go by. There's the K's, there's a few people there. Not a whole lot. So then there's Route 21. Actually, usually this kind of washes out more than it is, so it's camera's doing okay this time around. Then there's California Nails. There's the former East and West that shut down, so there's another empty storefront, which it's been empty for a couple of episodes that we've done. But one of the kiosks graduated to an inline tenant, so I guess you could say it's a new tenant, even though it's really an old one, but I'm sure the mall gets more rent if they actually rent a physical space than a cart. And there's the inside of the Hot Topic. Doesn't seem to be a hot topic at the moment. And back into the original structure. Not much to see at this point. But this time, when we get to the former Macy's wing, there is something to go and look at this time. In fact, they've kinda did a little work there. Now walking by the Journeys, should get a look inside. Doing alright, I guess. The salon that's in the old part of the mall moved out from the space that was next to what was Macy's. So I don't know if there's plans to put something there or get somebody there, because I can't see why they wouldn't keep them there if there wasn't any plans. And that torrid over the left, those last two windows that walk by, it almost looks like it's part of that store, but that's actually a single store cut up in half, and those two spots are actually a vacant front. And this time, there's a point to walk down here. No longer cut off from the rest of the world or the mall. It's the Gardner Furniture outlets in the former Macy's, although just the lower level. Going by the cockroach of the mall, Bath and Body Works, because they say if a mall's gonna die, that or a GNC are typically the last things to go before a mall does. Although it's kind of ironic for this mall, and there's the new mall offices, where they used to be initially. And here's the new version of Gardner Furniture in the former Macy's. And you could definitely tell it's still Macy's motif, but with furniture. It actually complements the furniture quite well. It's definitely much better than the space that they were in when we visited last time. No longer a death trap, nicely spaced. This space, as it is with the Macy's decorative touches and such, it complements pretty well. Only thing is, they didn't quite do the best of jobs of cutting off the second level. As you can see, that part is still vacant. And now we're into the dining room section. This is much better laid out. Much more room. I like it a lot. So just cut it a little short and just go down the entertainment center part. Or at least in my old mind, that's what these kind of things are. And then of course those are dinettes and dining rooms. I have to say, this is much better than where they were. And like I said, we'll end the video at where they were to look at the progress of the new trampoline park, or lack thereof in terms of progress. Launch Entertainment. So, back half of the Macy's. They still have the shelves from Macy's back when Home Goods and their own bedding department were there. And I'm not talking Home Goods, the department store. I'm talking, domestic stuff like towels and draperies. Those shelves had all that stuff on them, but the furniture store don't really need that many. And we don't spend too much time looking at that setup because, one, there was a guy there, and two, there was copyrighted sports or a copyrighted telecast on that TV. Didn't spend too much time on that. And unlike the other furniture store that we shown you before at a different location, this is furniture that you would see in people's homes. I have no idea why they thought that other place thought that a furniture store of horrific character in terms of the furniture. Nobody would buy that stuff, and that's why they closed. So we're heading back out into the mall and continuing the final leg. We've gone through all the anchors and back into here. And it's amazing how dead this hallway is when that salon moved from its corner location just outside of that entry when it was Macy's to where it is now. But the furniture outlet is no longer secluded. It's part of the mall, which is good, especially on a cold day like this where it was a nice warm toasty 14 degrees, or for you Celsius fans, I think that comes out to about -8 or something like that. I just did a rough calculation in my head, and I mean very rough, because I'm not good at math, and that was a look into Spencer's. So that's pretty much all there is, except we haven't really got a good deep look into Joann's, as we were too close to it going the other way. So as we close this part out, take a look in there, or we tried to, but yeah, there were too many people. At this point, surprisingly, there were enough people to just nix it, and this group of people pretty much was the reason why we couldn't turn over, because they were pretty much right there, and wanted to respect them. So, this is George F551 saying, hope you enjoyed, have a good one, and let's take a look for the last moment, the progress of launch.